All right, today we're going to dig into a really fascinating study that tackles a puzzle so many of us are dealing with in the modern workplace. How do you keep your team's energy up when you're not even in the same room? I mean, this is the question, right? So many leaders, so many employees are asking this. The whole shift to remote work, it's been a total game changer for sure, but it comes with this really serious challenge, that feeling of just energy drain. So, how do we fight it? Well, the answer might just be in this psychological concept called vigor. So, vigor. What is that exactly? Well, think of it like your psychological fuel tank for work. You know that feeling when you're just full of energy, you're mentally sharp, you feel strong? That's vigor. And when that tank is full, you're on your game, you're engaged, you're performing at your best. So, the $1 million question from the study we're looking at is, what can leaders actually do to fill that tank up, especially when they're miles away? All right, first step, the remote energy drain. Let's start by digging into the core problem here. I mean, why does working from home so often feel like it's sucking the life out of us? It really boils down to something pretty simple. When you're working from home, you lose all those little spontaneous moments, the quick chat by the coffee machine, the informal brainstorm. The research has a name for this: social isolation. And it's a well-known culprit for tanking not just our well-being, but our performance too. It can kick off this whole negative spiral of feeling detached and stressed out. And this is exactly why a specific kind of leadership might be, well, more critical than ever before. Okay, section 2. What is positive leadership? So, what's the potential antidote here? Well, the study we're looking at focuses on a style called positive leadership. Let's break down what that actually means. Okay, so this isn't like some other leadership styles that are just laser focused on the bottom line. Positive leadership actually puts the employee's well-being front and center. The whole idea is pretty simple, really. Leaders should be intentionally doing things that create positive emotions for their team. But, what does that actually look like day to day? And here's the thing. What's so powerful about this is just how simple and direct these behaviors are. We're not talking about some complicated abstract management theory here. We're talking about really tangible stuff, like a leader praising you for your performance, personally thanking you, cheering you up when you're having a rough day, or even just helping you out with a specific task. And these are the exact behaviors the study measured. All right, section 3, the study's key findings. So we've got the problem, right? The remote energy drain. And we have a potential solution: positive leadership. But the big question is, does it actually work? Let's get to the evidence. So to figure this out, researchers surveyed 186 employees. And they did it in a pretty clever way. It was a two-wave study. First, they measured how employees saw their leaders' positive behaviors. Then, they waited 7 weeks and measured the employees' own energy levels, their vigor. Doing it this way helps show a much more reliable link between what the leader does and how the employee feels. So the first big question is pretty straightforward. Does this positive leadership stuff actually boost employee vigor? Is there a real, measurable connection there? And the first finding? An absolutely clear yes. The data showed a direct positive link. Leaders who did these simple, positive things had employees who reported feeling way more energized and alive at work. But, and this is a big but, the story does not end there. Because the next question is where things get really interesting. Is this energy boost the same for everyone? I mean, does it work just as well for people in the office as it does for folks working from home? The researchers decided to dig a little deeper. And here we have our second finding, which is the first major twist. The answer is no. The effect is actually stronger for remote workers. That's right. The positive link between this leadership style and that feeling of vigor isn't just there for remote workers. It's way more powerful. Those little acts of praise and support, they give an even bigger energy boost to people who are physically distant. But believe it or not, there's still one more layer to this whole puzzle. Okay, section 4, the long-term relationship twist. And honestly, this final finding is the most powerful one. It adds this incredible layer of nuance, because it turns out how long you've worked with your boss completely changes the entire equation. So what's the secret ingredient? What's the thing that supercharges this whole effect, taking it from just kind of helpful to absolutely critical? It's the duration of the leader-follower relationship. Seriously. The length of time you've worked with your manager dramatically changes how all of this impacts your energy, especially when you start comparing remote workers to people in the office. And wow, this graph tells the entire story. Let's focus on the long-term teams, where the impact is like night and day. Okay, so for the remote workers, that's the blue line going up. The more positive leadership they get, the bigger the boost in their vigor. It's huge. But now look at the on-site workers. That's the red line going down. For them, in these long-term relationships, more of that explicit positive leadership was actually linked to lower vigor. The effect is completely, totally reversed. How crazy is that? All right, Section 5, Actionable Insights for Leaders. So we've seen the what. Now it's time for the so what. What does all of this actually mean for leaders who are out there trying to manage their teams effectively? This quote from the study really gets to the heart of why this happens. Think about it. When you're in the office, you get all these subtle cues from your boss. A nod, a quick smile, their body language. You just know where you stand. But remote workers, they miss all of that. They're kind of flying blind. So they need that explicit confirmation that, hey, you're doing a good job, you're on the right track, and that's exactly what these positive leadership behaviors provide for them. So this all boils down to a really simple toolkit for leaders. If you have remote team members, especially people you've worked with for a while, these 4 things, praising performance, thanking them personally, cheering them up, and helping with tasks, these are your absolute high-impact tools. They're not just nice-to-haves. The data shows they are genuinely critical for keeping that energy and well-being high. And that brings us to a really thought-provoking final question. Could it be that for that long-term, in-person team member who already gets all those subtle, implicit cues from their boss, could too much explicit praise actually drain their energy? Could it feel, I don't know, patronizing or unnecessary? It's just such a powerful reminder that leadership is not one size fits all. Context is everything, and what truly energizes one person might just be the very thing that drains another.